Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back. We're going to be starting part 7 in the Essenes Children of the Light, written by Stuart Wilson and Joanna Prentis. And part 7 focuses on a topic about the drama unfolding. So the drama unfolds, and I don't know what direction we're going to take with that, but we're going to read chapter 21 and find out. And chapter 21 is a very short chapter, about a page and a half. So we're going to include chapter 22. And in our last, I think we have one more chapter that consists, we have two more chapters that in this part that I'm very, very anxious to get to. And that is talking about the topic of the crucifixion and Mary Magdalene. And if you followed me in my previous book that we read together, we read The Power of the Magdalene, which was written by the same authors, and it follows this book. So they do refer to this book a lot in Power of the Magdalene, and that's why I decided to read it, even though we're reading them out of order. So let's go ahead and get started. Part 7, the drama unfolds. The mind does nothing but talk and ask questions and search for meanings. The heart does not talk, does not ask questions, does not search for meanings. It silently moves towards God and surrenders itself to Him. And that is from Francis of Assisi. Chapter 21, a scene meeting in the cave. We now moved forward in time. It was towards the end of Jesus's ministry, and the Essenes were meeting in a large cave, which was to the north of Jerusalem. Here is Daniel's account of this gathering. Daniel: It is a big meeting in this cave, in a remote and hilly place, and it's at night. The cave and the ways leading to it are well guarded, so we will not be surprised by anyone. We are sitting in a circle, maybe about 30 people. In front of us are lamps so that we can see the faces. The only other light is coming from the middle of the circle, where there is a huge round crystal. It's pale purple in color and is glowing. There are people here from all the communities, as well as the core group, which we read a bit about the core group in an earlier chapter. This is a special place, a sacred place, and we've been meditating here for some time before anyone speaks. Members of the core group are talking about Jesus and his next step forward. That they either call it his ritual death experience or sometimes simply his process. So we're discussing the preparations that have to be made, the effort which has to be put in, and the possibility of succeeding. And it's a very special process he will be going through, focusing on the use of love energies through the heart. This is a new energy, a cosmic energy, which is being brought in and demonstrated so that others can see how to use it. It is capable of taking people through a process of spiritual transformation in a direct way, which is quite different from the complex methods used in the past. Jesus is marking out a new path, a broad new road into the light, and that's light with a capital L. It is not certain that he will be able to achieve this, but the members of the core group are optimistic. They seem to talk from much deeper knowledge than we possess. We all hope it will work. We understand that it will help human development if it succeeds, but it's not certain. There are doubts, and some of us have more doubts than others. We can see it in theory. It's being explained to us. We hope it will work and will do what we can to assist, but it's not at all certain. So the plan is being laid out before us. Jesus will go forward and act out in public the climax of the mystery school teaching. He will go through a mock trial, be crucified, and bring all the energies together into a synthesis. He will need a massive amount of support to sustain him while all this is proceeding. I just wish we had the certainty of the core group. We will go forward with high hopes, but also much anxiety. I could feel Daniel's anxiety and tension at this point. Clearly, it was a very tense time for many of the Essene elders. Daniel. So there's lots of support needed now, a lot of focusing and building up of the energy in order to help in this process. We're using the energy lines connecting the communities. We have been gathering crystals for some time and working on the sites, linking them together and activating them. This huge crystal here in the cave is one of the focal points in this energy system. The plan has been put forward and we've discussed it, and it's generally agreed. There will be group leaders who lead the meditation in their communities. The meditational energy will be generated and directed to Jesus at higher levels. So he will have both this higher energy and the energy through the system with the crystals. There are crystals and patterns to hold the energy, and the energy of each of the community sites leads into the central area. Triangles flowing into a central triangle to make a complete energy system. It's so amazing that there was so much that went into his mission here on earth, so far surpasses what any religion has taught us. If you are a person who was raised in a religion and it was very much Jesus-centered, very much around his life and his crucifixion, you understand what I'm saying. All that's given to us, which we think is so much, ends up being such a tiny fragment. And I dare say this is a tiny fragment. All that we've learned is still such a tiny fragment of all that's left unknown and undocumented and unsaid. So just to even have a glimpse of it in this way feels sacred in a way. This proved to be a most interesting and revealing session. Daniel's references to an energy system are fascinating, and we will return to this in the next chapter. What emerges most strongly here is the sense of this group of Essenes planning towards and preparing for the process at the time of the crucifixion. This is seen not as a sudden and unexpected event which overtook Jesus, but as the climax of a drama which had been carefully planned and thoroughly prepared for. Daniel's comment on the mystery school was particularly revealing. It seems that the events of Jesus' ministry, trial, and crucifixion were a very deliberate acting out of the mysteries upon the outer stage of the world. And now here we go to chapter 22, the energy system. And this chapter is fairly short as well. We've got about 4 pages, but one of them consists of just an illustration. Chapter 22, the energy system. In a later session, we were able to follow up Daniel's reference to an energy system. No other accounts of Essene life which we had read referred to this, and we had the sense of getting something entirely new here. Joanna, when you told us about the meeting in the cave, you mentioned a complete energy system. Can you tell us more about this? Daniel says yes. There was an inner and an outer energy system. The outer energy generated by the earth, focused and intensified by crystals, was directed along lines of force running across the surface of the land towards Jesus on the cross. This enabled the energy levels in his body to be maintained. The inner meditational energy was fed by the communities into subtle levels for directing to Jesus. Together, these two sources provided a complete system of support. The inner energy sustained and nourished the higher aspects of his being, and particularly their link with the physical body. It was essential that this link was strongly maintained until his energy process was completed. Joanna, and the outer system using earth energies, what points form the central triangle in this? Daniel says the central triangle was formed by Jerusalem, the main focus of this drama, Qumran, and the cave. Joanna says, and the cave was to the north of Jerusalem? Daniel says, in a hilly area well to the north. It formed a roughly equal-sided triangle with Qumran and Jerusalem. This was a vital clue for us. It would place the cave almost halfway between Jericho and the town of Silwood, just to the north of the modern road which connects these two places. It is even today a remote area, and we could see that it would have served the Essenes well as the secret location for an important meeting cave. Looking at the overall pattern, it was now clear what Daniel meant by triangles flowing into a central triangle. When we were able to step back and look at the whole system as identified on the map, we were amazed at the distances involved. This energy system runs for over 120 miles. To work with what we would now call ley lines in the establishment of such a system must have been a major undertaking. We are not experts in earth energies, but we have friends who are, and they tell us that working with the energies in this way takes a lot of time and effort. How could the Essenes have possibly been able to think that far ahead? When I asked Daniel about that, this was his reply. Daniel, the original plan came from the Kalu, and our people started working with the earth energies in alignment with this plan as soon as the communities were set up. And then here we have a diagram, and it's really such small writing. It's just showing the distance on the map. And of course, they've just given it to us over 120 miles. And I'll show it to you in case you're interested. I'll try to get as close as I can, but honestly, the writing is so small. We found this quite extraordinary, and it led on to other questions. Why would the Kalu have encouraged the Essenes to set up such an energy system? A system that would have involved years of work, the use of rare and expensive crystals, and the constant danger of discovery. Had they foreseen a specific need at the time of Jesus? Joanna, this must have been a big undertaking for the communities to set up such a system. Daniel says, yes, it was a vast project. Most of the basics had been put in place before my lifetime. A lot of the effort was put in over many years, strengthening the energy lines so that the power could be concentrated. The work had to be done very quietly and secretly so as not to attract the attention of the other Jews. Joanna, and how long did all of this take? Daniel says the whole operation lasted about 150 years. The Kalu started assessing and developing the sites as soon as they arrived in the region. It was a priority for them to develop this energy system. The system was based on the natural energy lines that run along the surface of the earth, with additions and strengthening of the pattern making a truer geometrical form through the use of crystals. Joanna, did the Kalu set up this system for general use, or were they making preparations for a specific event? Daniel says it was quite specific. They knew another teacher of righteousness would come, and this would be needed when his work reached a climax. The Kalu were wise indeed. They knew what was to come and made preparations accordingly. We did not know the detail of their future knowledge, but they spoke of a great teacher of righteousness who was to come, and that all this work would support him. That was enough for us. We were content to carry out their plans. You do not question wise and holy beings who are far above you and who can see the pattern of things more clearly than you can. So there it is. The Kalu had foreseen the coming of Jesus and the need for a support system at the end of his ministry. And they worked with the Essenes over more than a century to put this support system in place. We were interested to get some confirmation of work upon the energy system from another source. John reliving his life as Luke. I was asking him what his work was, and among other things, he said this. Luke, I was working with crystals, walking the earth energy lines to make them stronger, to build them up. Joanna, you say lines. Where did these lines go? Luke, they connected the communities and certain other power points. They worked together to form a complete system. If the Kalu came from Atlantis, they would have had great skill in the use of crystals, and the construction of such an energy grid does not seem so remarkable in the light of Atlantean knowledge and technology. What was remarkable was the difficult conditions under which the Essenes had to work. The inner triangle in the system was particularly interesting. It connected the large crystal in Qumran, the crystal in the cave, and Jesus on the cross. In a sense, Jesus was the third crystal and the focal point for all these forces. A teacher who has been an inspiration to our whole group, Anne Hughes, once said to us that Christos is the crystal. We never understood this at the time, but that statement fits perfectly within this larger perspective. All right, so we're going to stop right there. And in our next video, we're going to read chapter 23, the crucifixion. And we may read chapter 24, which is titled The Empty Tomb. And again, if you followed me in Power of the Magdalene, we learn what happens to his body according to the people that they're speaking to, whether he really lived or died, where he was placed, all of these things. So we're going to see how it sort of connects to this. And we certainly, if you followed me on the Christ letters or Mary's message to the earth, it will be nice to kind of compare what the different stories are. So yeah, we'll read 23 and 24 possibly together. They don't look too terribly long, but again, sometimes they are longer than they seem, and that will complete part 7, and then we'll start part 8. And I'm really excited to read 23 because we're going to be talking about the crucifixion and anything I can learn about that, any information that I can put out there that enlightens people and gives them something different to think about when it comes to Jesus, when it comes to his life here, his crucifixion, and what really happened to him. Even if it's just one more person that knows something that many people don't know, it is still one more person. That's how I look at it. So thank you all very much for joining me. I'm posting this on a Friday. I hope you all have a beautiful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you again soon for our next video. And as always, take care of yourself and take care of those around you, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.